Okay, now we're going to start with the second part of these notes. It's in one complete slideshow, but this is the second part because I can only record for so long. But we're going to start now talking about physician-assisted suicide, and that is, like I've already said, different from euthanasia. People use the terms interchangeably, and that's wrong. They're very similar, but they're not the same. Alright, so a physician in this case usually would prescribe medication which the patient takes on his or her own, which causes death. The patients kill themselves. That's the difference. With euthanasia, you do something that causes their death. Either it's passive, where you remove life support and they die of natural causes, or you do something that actually kills them. Which, in the most extreme cases, like with Eugene Bronsdorf, shooting his daughter. But in this physician-assisted suicide, the physician, the doctor, provides the means, but the patients kill themselves. Suicide. Okay? That's the difference. So the big question here is, if you want to die, should a doctor help you do so? So, let's talk about where the debate for physician-assisted suicide originated. Dr. Tim Quill, in 1991, gave his patient who was suffering from acute leukemia enough sleeping pills that she would be able to take them and commit suicide. He even told her how to do it. He explained how to do it. And 4 months later, she killed herself. Now, because of patient-doctor privilege, how do we even know this happened? Well, he wrote about it in an article that was published in the American Journal for Medicine. After that was published, he was arrested. Never spent time in jail, but he was arrested. But he did this in order to ignite the national debate over physician-assisted suicide. He believed that that should be something, a level of care that doctors should be able to give their patients. Now, fast forward a little bit, and you might recognize this guy right here. His name is Jack Kevorkian. There's been a Showtime movie named for him, so you may recognize him. The movie was You Don't Know Jack, and he's probably the most famous person who is tied to either euthanasia or physician-assisted suicide. He was labeled as Dr. Death. He invented what he called a suicide machine. And the suicide machine, you work much the same way that it works when we execute a person through lethal injection. First, you're hooked up to just a saline drip. And then there are two medicines that whenever the patient pushes the button, will administer the deadly dose of medicine. One will stop your heart, one will stop your breathing. But you push the button. And it's pretty morbid. A lot of these suicides, and there were over 130 suicides, and I will show you a list. I'll put in materials, a list of people that he helped die. And some of them you would not think would be terminal. Like there were a few quadriplegics on the list, and yeah, I do understand why somebody might want to take the easy way out and just cash out, but, there can be some quality of life there, and you're not terminal. So, anyway, there are all sorts of questions about that, and a big question I have is, if you are a quadriplegic, how do you push that button? But he had been arrested numerous times, and he actually spent time in jail because he was going to be on 60 Minutes, and they were filming, and the person had been hooked to his machine, and at the time that it came for the patient to push the button, he had Lou Gehrig's disease. And he was losing all muscle function in his body. He was not able to push the button, and Dr. Kevorkian pushed it for him. and that was on camera, so that was evidence, and he actually spent, I think it was 7 years in jail for that one. And when he got out, he was not done. He actually ran for the Michigan State Legislature, and he wanted to make Michigan a state with what's called death with dignity laws, where physician-assisted suicide was legal. He lost the election, and Michigan still has not passed those laws. But he was pretty morbid. He would pick people up at the Mall of America there and take them and hook them up to the machine. They would end up killing themselves. Then he would take the bodies back and put them in their car at the mall, and there were numerous people found that way at the mall. It's pretty morbid. And some of the stuff that he had written was pretty, I don't know, we would think is very brutal about experiments that he thought would be beneficial to conduct on the human body. But anyway, he died several years ago, and he died of natural causes, by the way. He did not use his machine. So, anyway, interesting character. Now, the newest kind of poster child for physician-assisted suicide is Brittany Maynard. When she was 29 years old, she found out that she had an inoperable brain tumor, very fast-growing, fast-moving, and that she only had months to live. And so she began advocating for death with dignity laws. She lived in California, but she had to move to Oregon in order to be able to carry out her own suicide. And she died in November 2014. Now, I'm not going to play this video in this recorded session, but you need to watch it. It talks about her story. And the doctor did prescribe her the medicines that she would later take at that time. She has a whole series of vlogs on YouTube where she talks about her thought process about going into this, why she did it, why people need the right to be able to do this. And so you need to watch this one, but you can go on YouTube and just type in her name, and there'll be several videos. And her husband has continued to advocate for death with dignity laws. All right, let's talk about physician-assisted suicide legislation. In 1997, the Supreme Court said that states can decide for or against physician-assisted suicide. And a lot of times we shorten that and we say PAS legislation, death with dignity legislation. So if you see PAS, that's what it's talking about. Currently, there are 32 states that have laws against it. Tennessee is one of them. However, during the last two sessions of the General Assembly in Tennessee, that's where we make Tennessee's laws, there have been two bills that were death with dignity bills. They never made it to the House floor or the Senate floor. They did make it, I believe, out of the initial committees, but there are a lot of people in Tennessee who advocate for it. However, and you will see this, and I've already alluded to it, there are 8 states, bring this down a little bit, there are 8 states that have passed death with dignity laws. Oregon, Washington. Oregon was the first. Washington, Maine, Vermont, Colorado, California, Hawaii, New Jersey, and the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. But if you notice the geography, what's missing there? Because they're kind of spread out. There are several on the West Coast, several on the East Coast, okay? But you don't see any southern states there. Think about why that is. Why are there no southern states? Well, in the Bible, it talks about if you kill yourself, that's a sin, and that you can't go to heaven if you kill yourself. That's what a lot of Christians believe. Well, the South is that Bible belt, and so it's going to be a while before these states in the South pass any of that legislation. It may be coming. People are changing their minds. You students, a lot of you said that you think maybe you should have the right to do that. Right now we don't. Not here in Tennessee, not anywhere in the South. So, all right, well, that's going to conclude these notes. And please feel free to email me any questions that you have, anything you feel like you need to clear up. Make sure after you complete your fill-in notes that you turn those in. Those are great. All right, that will end this session.